Hi guys, and welcome back to Off the Cuff. Today I thought we would just do a quick one, have a quick rant about politicians and vaccine passports. Um, I think it's important for people to pay attention to these things and to talk to people about how they're feeling about them, what they think is going on, and that sort of thing. This was brought to my attention, this video, by a friend of the channel, and I really appreciate that. And I wonder how many other people have seen it or heard it since it's been out. It's been out for about 6 days now. So it's a video with a Conservative MP, Mark Harper. Now, the sort of backstory for those that are not Britishers, we have had sort of, I guess, 3.5 or 4 lockdowns over the last 19 months. And I think at times a lot of people haven't really known if they're in a lockdown because, kids can still go to school through most of the lockdowns. Many people can still go to work, but obviously not everybody. No weddings, and I know a lot of people whose businesses have been, beyond damaged. I remember after the first lockdown, a good old friend of mine spoke to me, who's worked his butt off for his business. Completely from the ground up, like no help or anything like that. And he was telling me that if they go if there's another lockdown, he said I just don't know how we're gonna make it out, because there was no forgiveness for loans, especially for commercial spaces. And if you don't bring in the money, how are you going to pay your £3,000 a month repayments for your, or payments for your lease? Anyway, so this guy Mark Harper, this is what he had to say in Parliament about 6 days ago.
Of order, Mr. Speaker, on which I have given you notice, and I've also notified the Leader of the House of Commons. You'll be aware yesterday a statement was made at the dispatch box by the Parliamentary Under-Secretary at the Department for Health and Social Care about vaccine passports, and there's a relevant piece, Mr. Speaker, which potentially pertains to the House of Commons. He said, by the end of September, everyone aged 18 and over will have had the chance to receive full vaccination and the additional 2 weeks for that protection to take hold. So at that point, we plan to make full vaccination a condition of entry to nightclubs and other venues where large crowds gather. Proof of a negative test will no longer be sufficient. Now, it seems to me, Mr. Speaker, particularly on a Wednesday when we get back to normal, that definition could equally apply to this House of Commons. It would be outrageous if the executive were to attempt to prevent any member of Parliament attending this House to represent our constituents without first undergoing a medical procedure. Now, Mr. Speaker, I raised it with you because I hope you'll be able to make a ruling on this matter. And in closing, I would just note that your 17th century predecessor, Speaker Lenthal, stood up very effectively against an overmighty executive. And it didn't end well for the overmighty executive.
It did lead to the end of the monarchy as well, I might add, for a short period. So let's hope we're not quite going back that far. What I would say is I'm very grateful for the honourable member giving me notice, and I've had no indication that government considers the policy he has mentioned should apply to this House. What I would say, Speaker of this House, there is nothing to stop a member coming into here. You have the right to come to this House unless this House otherwise says so. And I've got to say, the government's not been in touch. I don't expect them to be in touch because, as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't apply to members.
Okay, so that happened. I think he thought that this would look like he was fighting for the people, and he was saying we shouldn't have it and nobody else should. But he didn't actually say that. He essentially just said, I've heard rumblings that we might have to have vaccine passports in the Houses of Parliament, so the House of Commons, the House of Lords, etc. And he's obviously saying it's not a good thing. You should not have to have a medical procedure to go to work. Yeah, I think many people agree with you, Mark. But he was specifically talking about MPs. This doesn't look particularly good, does it? I mean, we've seen and heard a lot of people higher up. Now, I'm not including like Hollywood actors and those sorts of people in this. We know that they will do what they're told. But I would say sort of heads of industry and politicians have certainly expressed doubt, although it's often had to be, sort of whistle blown or leaked. They're not going to say it publicly. That they don't have that much confidence in it, or that they don't think it's a sort of be all and end all has a be all and end all effectiveness to combat the situation. So he came out afterwards when there was a bit of a backlash, but a very small one, sadly, of people saying, "Well, how come you're upset that it's that way in the Houses of Parliament, but we've all now been told that we're going to have vaccine passports to go out on a Friday night, or even to go to work. Why is no one standing up for us?" And then he kind of took his opportunity, I think, over Twitter. Well, I saw it over Twitter. He came forward and he said, "Yeah, there should be no double standards, so we shouldn't have to have vaccine passports, and neither should you." Okay, well, you didn't say that to begin with, but I guess we'll take it. And obviously, my opinion on these things is speak to your doctor. Definitely, I don't even know if I can say this. Strange position we're in nowadays, isn't it? I possibly wouldn't go if I didn't know properly, about my own body, and I wasn't sure that I wouldn't have a reaction. Particularly if I was in a certain age group. I think we've heard a lot of people say that. But if you are remotely ill, I definitely think you should speak to your doctor. So this is not what I'm doing here. I'm not here to say to people whether or not they should do that. I guess it's too late for most people anyway. I think in the UK, something like 77% of people over the age of 16 have had it. But there are obviously other countries where people would still have the choice. But yeah, I just thought it was interesting to sort of see a perspective that we might not often see. And yeah, I think it's something to think on. And I wish he really had fought for the people that moment that he had to speak. Now, in the UK at least, about 85% of politicians have been very pro the medical procedure. But and those that haven't are essentially Conservatives, and I think there's a couple of Labour guys as well. Not that it really matters. And they're just, I don't know whether they sort of got together behind the scenes and just said, look, I know we bought this before there was testing and stuff, but, look, we just need to stand firm, stand together and, say whatever. Because it's been a long time since politicians have all banded together and had almost the same thoughts on something. And I understand that, it's different from the norm, but even so, in America, there's a fairly partisan divide about the medical procedure. So yeah, it's an interesting one over here. But anyway, I just thought I would show you that. Let me know your thoughts, and let me know what's going on in your countries as well, because I am very intrigued to see if it's sort of like this everywhere. But yeah, thanks guys, and I will see you again soon.